Hey everyone, my name is Usman and in this video we'll create a tier list based off of 6 React form libraries. Let's do it. So the first library we'll talk about is Formik. So Formik is currently the second most popular form library for React and it has around 1 million downloads, which is great. Also, it has got a lot of stars on GitHub, which means that it is popular and it has got a lot of support on the internet for it. If you get stuck on some issue, you'll be able to find something on Stack Overflow or some forum. However, it has two issues. So one big issue is that it re-renders the entire form whenever some field inside that form changes. So right now I've got 3 fields. I've got a name field, I've got an email field, and I've got a password field. So I've got a console log here which says form re-rendering. So now for this form, if I type in any field, let's say I can type in a name field, I type in Alex, you'll see that the form is re-rendering. Similarly, if I type in the email field, the password field, the whole form would re-render, and it is fine for this small form because this form has only got 3 fields. But just suppose that your form is very big and it has got 100 fields or something. In that case, this is not a good practice that the whole form re-renders whenever you are making some change in an input. Secondly, this library is type safe to some extent. So I have got initial values, name, email, password. If I basically type in values and press dot, you'll see that it says email, name, password. So basically there is some level of TypeScript compatibility present in Formik, but not for every function. So I've got another function here, set field value, and this is basically supposed to set the value for a particular field. So in this case, the name field, let's say. So if I type and set field value and then basically add a string here, I'll basically get no IntelliSense for TypeScript, and it says that the field should be string, but it should basically not allow me to type any field key here which is not name, email, or password, but I can type anything here, and that is wrong. Similarly, Formik has got the field component, the fast field component. For these as well, the name should only expect these 3 keys and not some arbitrary string, but I can type anything here, and that is wrong. So it is not fully type safe. Also for validation, it does allow normal JavaScript validation plus yup integration, but it doesn't allow the integration of other schema libraries like Zod or JOE, etc. So it is a very popular library. You will be able to find support for it. It is good, however, because of the performance issue, the TypeScript issue, and the not integration of other popular validation schema libraries, I will put it at B. Now let's talk about React Hook Form. So React Hook Form right now is the most popular React form library with actually almost 6 million downloads, and it is increasing ever since. This is the best form library you will be able to find, and it has got a lot of stars. Also, you will see that the number of issues and pull requests is very small, so even if some issue arises, like, it is dealt with pretty quickly, which is cool. Now for React Hook Form, it is fully type safe. So based on the type I have passed here, inputs, name and email, it basically will provide type safety for literally every function. So register, even if I'm getting like errors from form state, so if I do form state dot errors dot, you'll see that it provides type safety here as well. So it has full-fledged type safety. There is no function which is not compatible and will not provide completions for these input keys, which is cool. Also, it gives us field level rendering. So if I am changing the name input, only the name input will re-render. Similarly, even if I'm using a controller interface, if I am typing in inside this email field, only this email field would re-render and not the form itself, which is cool. The form would only re-render when some stuff changes, like errors update, the validation state updates, or the form submits, and that is not really a problem. So if I come here and I'm typing some name in the name field, you'll see that the form is not re-rendering. Similarly, even if I'm using a control component and I'm using the controller interface, I can type anything here and the form is not re-rendering, which is great. This library is great performance wise, and you can build forms with like 1,000 fields and the form will still work in a performant way because it is using refs under the hood. Even if you have to integrate control components, only those control components would re-render and not the entire form, which is great. Also for validation, it has integrations for every library. So yup, Zod, GOI, Superstruct, whatever library it is, it will work with that, which is great. So because of that, I actually haven't been able to find anything wrong with this library. I'll put into the S tier. Now we'll talk about Final Form. So Final Form or React Final Form is a very old library. Like, it hasn't got a lot of weekly downloads. Also, you'll see that the last version was published a year ago, which is not very good because a library requires continuous maintenance. Like, you cannot leave it for 1 year or 2 years. Same was happening with Formik, by the way. So that is not good. In addition to that, there is no support for TypeScript in this library, so you will not be able to get TypeScript completions for the field keys and everything. So that is not cool. Similarly, as it is an old library, there is literally no validation integration for yup, Zod, etc. As far as I've seen for this library, in this case as well, the whole form would re-render when you would type anything inside the input. So because of that, I would put it in C, not D, because there is one library which deserves the D spot. Now we'll talk about Tanstack Form. So Tanstack Form is basically an up and coming library by Tanstack, and basically I see a lot of potential in it. So it has around like 70,000 downloads, and its downloads began from 3,000 and now they're at 7,000. So a lot of people are basically using it, and it is promising. You can see in the GitHub as well, it has got a decent number of stars for a new library. The issues and pull requests are small as well. The latest commit was done 16 hours ago. So, it is a library which is being continuously maintained and taken care of. Also, with Tanstack, you know that all the libraries under Tanstack are very good. They are highly maintained, and some of these libraries have sponsors as well. So maybe in the future, this library will get a sponsor as well. And you'll see that this library has the potential to become the top library as far as form libraries are concerned. So here I'm using the Tanstack Form library. Same thing, I have got a console log here. So form re-rendering. Similarly, I have console logs for name field is re-rendering and email field is re-rendering. So we'll see initially that it only says name field is re-rendering and email field is re-rendering. So if I type something in the name field, you will only see that the name field is re-rendering, not the form. Similarly, for the email field as well, only the email field will be re-rendering. Only if I do something like submit a form or something, you'll see that the form re-renders. Otherwise, the form doesn't re-render at all. Similarly, it has got full type safety. So literally everything is type safe. The name attribute for the field component is type safe. The set field value, every function, everything inside this library is type safe, and that is a pretty good thing. Also for validation, it can be integrated with all the other libraries like yup, Zod, etc. Other libraries like JOI, etc. are also being looked at, and they will be added in like a future version. So right now it's V0. Maybe in V1, those libraries will be added as well. So because of the things I mentioned, this has the features which literally are equivalent to Redux Form, but since it has a decent potential, and since this is under the Tanstack, and I think this would become a very popular library in the future, I will put it at S tier. Now we'll talk about Mantine Forms. So Mantine Form or Mantine Form is a form library for the Mantine UI library, but it is a standalone library. You can use it for your use case as well. So you can use it in your application as well. You don't have to use it with Mantine UI. You can see in the GitHub, this is the library, and it is being maintained, etc. just like the whole Mantine UI, which is cool. So the Mantine Form as well, by default, the form is a controlled component. So on every input change, the whole form would re-render by default. However, you can set this mode to uncontrolled. However, the problem is you can set its mode to uncontrolled, and then the whole form would be uncontrolled, and then obviously the performance would increase. However, the problem is that if you set the form to uncontrolled, then the whole form would become uncontrolled, and then you won't be able to add or use control components. So if you have to use like something like React Select, which is a control component, you won't be able to use that in the uncontrolled case. So that is a drawback. So for certain forms which use uncontrolled components, so that would work. But if you have a form with third-party libraries which are controlled components, then this would not work, and you will have to use the controlled mode to run the whole form. Otherwise, you can use the uncontrolled mode, and the performance of the form will be good. Also, it just like other libraries, it can be integrated with other validation schema libraries like yup and Zod, so that is good as well. But since it's a subset of a library, like a small sub package of a bigger package, I don't think it would be taken care of that much. So that is one issue. We can see in the future, maybe this would become one of the best form libraries out there, but I don't think it would be. Also, I don't think you would be able to find that much of a good support for Mantine Form as well. So because of that, I will put it in the B tier. Okay, so now we'll talk about Redux Form. So this library is not even being recommended by the owners, so they are recommending you to use the final form. So obviously, why would you use it? Similarly, last published version was done 2 years ago, which is not cool. Also, the idea that you have to use a global store for a form is weird. The form state should be local. You can have as many forms as you like, but the form state should be local. So this entire concept is weird. Also, this is an old library. I'm pretty sure a lot of new things which would come in React, etc., won't be usable with this library. So I won't, explore it that much. I will put it in the detail. So yeah, that was basically my ranking of the React form libraries. Maybe I missed some of the form libraries, but I tried to cover as much as possible. If you agree with this tier list, do let me know down in the comments below. If you disagree and you have some other ranking, you can also comment down below and tell me that, and we can, discuss the pros and cons of that. As always, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.